So I want to come back now to think about, the core question, not just of what can Alaric do when he's sitting in front of some crisps, but can a crisp packet, or how can a crisp packet be a valid focus for A-level study? And what this is leading us to is just thinking about what is A-level study, what's it for, and how does it lead on to university study? I don't have a kind of formulaic answer to this. It's something that I've never thought enough about, quite frankly. I don't even remember enough about what A-level is like to have a firm view. So I'd really encourage you to go away and kind of debate about this, ask your teacher what they think, what are their frustrations with the A-level syllabus, what are your friends' frustrations. And this might give you some kind of things to disagree with, to agree with. I'll be interested to see where you go. I'm fundamentally an optimistic person. This isn't just a kind of thing that affects me in my life, it affects me in my work too. Like every year we get kind of lists of dissertation topics that our students want to do coming round. And like everyone's like, I don't think I can do the one on, I don't know, mid-20th century comic books or whatever. I've got a student who's working on that at the moment. And I'm like, I'll do it, sounds fun. And so far it hasn't gone wrong for me, So I'm quite optimistic about the idea that everything is worth studying. In fact, I really believe that. I do believe that. Everything is worth studying. The question is whether it's worth studying at A-level or how it can be studied in a way that's really going to help you along. And I got to that point when I was looking at the crisps where I was like, okay, there are things I can do with these. In fact, it was already apparent as soon as I was in the shop. As soon as I started going, wow, there are loads of these and they're different colours, different fonts, different blurbs, I immediately realised that I could do stuff with crisps, which would be quite, in a way, quite exciting, just because I hadn't ever thought about it before. And you might just want to just go home, walk around your kitchen, have a look at the backs of crisps, cereal packets, whatever it's going to be, and just experience your kitchen as someone who's been asked to research the food in your kitchen, what's written on that food. I found that quite an exciting experience. But at the same time, to really kind of do that justice, I knew I was going to have to reach out to other disciplines, people who knew about other areas that I don't know very much about. And I also had at the back of my mind something that's always really important to scholarship, which is that anything's worth studying, but to be really kind of recognised by your peers, to be recognised as being worthwhile and doing something important, you have to be able to relate that new random weird thing to an existing conversation. And it doesn't mean that research should work like that. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but it is how the world is. There is no journal of crisp packet studies, but there will be journals of popular culture, journals of obesity, journals of food studies, whatever it's going to be, where I could kind of pitch my work and say, okay, I'm writing about kind of advertising blurbs on crisps in relation to this existing academic discourse. This is something that our students kind of struggle to learn to do, and you're probably struggling to learn to do as you write essays or do coursework. But the more you can kind of reach out to big conversations, the better. So I know that that's what I'd need to do if I was going to make these crisps kind of take off as a subject of study. And I know I need to kind of bring people on board who have different disciplines behind them. The big question for me, if I was teaching about this, would be whether I could do that in the context of an A-level that would be called English Language, or an A-level that would be called English Literature, or indeed a degree programme called English Language and Literature, which is what we call it at Leeds. Different people have different names. English Studies, that's another one that you get. Anglo-American Studies. Anyway, could I kind of fit that into a degree course that has just got that kind of bounded disciplinary nature? And this is where I really start to run out of answers, but I start to get into big problems. As a researcher, me and most of my colleagues, we find ourselves working on subjects that go right across departmental boundaries. I've already said that I spend most of my time working on medieval Scandinavia, but I work in a department called an English department. So most of my teaching is about text and English, but my research is doing something else. It's reaching across different boundaries. It's moving in different directions. I've got a colleague who mostly teaches American literature, but the last 20 years he's been mainly thinking about photography in India. We get all these kind of research cultures that do really interesting, complex things with the world, going across all sorts of academic boundaries. But at the same time, we've got this market out there for undergraduates who've come through an A-level system, and indeed GCSEs and earlier, which give them English, French, history, biology. And it's really hard to work out what to do about that, because we can't just say, kids at school should study everything. In fact, they tried that with science, didn't they? It's like, let's get rid of separate sciences, let's just mix them all up, and pretty soon students are like, what the hell's going on? So we need to kind of give you boundaries in order for you to be able to kind of control the knowledge that you're gaining. We need to keep things small enough for you to be able to get sufficiently deep into a subject that you're getting near the coalface of knowledge, so you can really start to do stuff for yourself. But at the same time, we need to kind of equip you with the idea that actually you do need to be able to talk to friends in other departments, to be able to reach out to other stuff. And at degree level, I spend loads of time trying to convince students to kind of think across modules within the programme, to think across departments. Yeah, how could I do that with crisp packets and A-level students? Maybe I can't. Maybe what I should say is, okay, we all know that Shakespeare is really interesting. And it's true. I mean, you can go for just hours discussing a bit of Shakespeare text because it's so densely packed with meaning. And then even when you've finished with that bit of text, you can reach out to its cultural context and later receptions, what people have done with it. There's a really, really rich, well kind of formulated body of academic work about Shakespeare that a student can latch onto and make the most of. I guess this connects with what one of my linguistic colleagues was saying about how crisp packets is a kind of fluffy, useless kind of study. It's not that studying crisp packets is inherently unuseful, but actually there are kind of areas of thought where it's going to be way easier for students to articulate their own originality and to kind of get purchase on a field and then move it forward because there's already a kind of conveyor belt, there's already momentum to help them along. So yeah, maybe we should just kind of keep things disciplinary. But at the same time, there are some undergraduate degree programmes out there that are a bit more wacky, that do sound different from your A-level programmes. Maybe cultural history. Talked about this friend, he works at Helsinki actually, who teaches cultural history. And he was like, yeah, a course about the potato. That would be amazing. I went to university and I did a degree called Anglo-Saxon, Norse and Celtic. My history teachers were like, Alaric, you know, we can't really kind of help you with this. We don't understand any of this Anglo-Saxon, Norse and Celtic stuff. Why don't you apply for history? My English teachers were like, Alaric, you know, what's this Anglo-Saxon, Norse and Celtic rubbish? Why don't you apply for English? You're really good at it. Not that I'm blowing my own trumpet unduly, but I suppose it is my job now, so you'd hope I was. But I was like, no, I really want to do this random-sounding degree. It's hard for universities to recruit to random-sounding degrees. Students kind of want to see a name that they already know. But if you've been kind of intrigued by the crisp packets, if you've been intrigued by the idea of going into your kitchen and thinking, how do biology and industry and words and fonts and images interrelate, maybe you could kind of start to think about what kind of wacky programs are out there that would allow you to start to unpack the world in new and different ways. So I know that's kind of an inconclusive question. How can a crisp packet be a valid focus for A-level study? I guess I'd put it on an English language A-level, not an English literature one, because otherwise the divide would just be too big. I'd make sure you had lots of data, and I'd try and help you to reach out to bigger discourses that you could tap into with your crisp packets. But at the same time, for you to do a really amazing job with crisp packets, I would suspect that you would have had to go through some quite traditional but kind of hardcore, how does syntax work type stuff. Maybe got hold of someone who really knows about designs and font choices because they've gone through that hardcore art history type program, for example. But having done that, you know, we really could make it work. Hope you've enjoyed thinking about that. Hope you enjoyed debating what you're supposed to be doing at A-level and whether it's working for you. And good luck if you go to university.